way, I would like you to use the little Ask Questions box on your GoToWebinar, and I'll answer them as we can see fit along the way. We had a very good one this morning, and got a lot of quick email responses back of people being quite happy with what they saw. We also have a demo sharing my my webcam with a demo board, which will show this is a KPLD, our keypad with a load in it, 2 wall switches, a lamp module. We also here have our Pim-Ip, which we will discuss within this webinar today. And we are also going to be discussing our new 7-button keypad. This is actually a desktop version. And we have a wall mount version as well, just hot neutral wires. And the buttons can be replaced, custom etched, and all you need to do is undo these 2 screws, take the ring off, replace the buttons quite easily, and put them back on. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about PCS. Those of you that don't really know who we are, we have been around for 21 years now. Been building power line lighting controls. It's basically our passion and our focus. We're actually the first company to do scene lighting control, and what we mean by that is when I hit a button, different lights go on to different lighting levels. And a lot of people were doing that, but they had to kind of do it in a popcorn fashion over the power line. So you control one device, then control the second device, and so forth. We're actually the inventors of the UPB technology, or Universal Power Line Bus. We have 7 licensees at this point, and we are the developers of Upstart, which is the configuration software which we're going to be going over today. I am happy to say that there is now one version of Upstart, so all the different licensees actually use the same version and have all the same feature sets, if you will. Then we used to actually have 4 different versions were out and about, so it kind of confused a bunch of people. So Upstart is now one version for all licensees. So part of the agenda today is what we need to do to design a system. We'll talk about Upstart and introduce the PIMs, which are basically the tools, and we will talk a little bit about the Pim-Ip. We do expect to be shipping that next month. We'll talk about, kind of a programming overview. We'll actually create a network, and we will introduce you to our systems designer, which is one of these tools that will enable you to save time and kind of take you through a step-by-step process to lay out a system. We'll be adding devices as we go. We'll configure those devices. We'll configure the WS1DL. The KPLD, the WS1D. We'll talk about the lamp module, and we will spend a little bit of time on our 7-button keypad to show you what the differentiations are between that and a standard keypad. We'll be creating links or scenes along the way, and we'll also cover how to certify a system, which to me is kind of one of the most important things of making sure that all of your devices are communicating properly and everything is working correctly. So the first part has to do with designing a system. And the steps to do that, I try and do things in 3 steps. Nobody remembers who the 4th is, let alone 2nd and 3rd. Everybody only remembers the winners. So the first question is, what do you want to control? And that enables us to figure out what load control modules or wall switches or lamp modules, output type modules, fixture modules, what actually receiver unit we need to use to lay it out. And we do have some worksheets that are available. We have an Excel spreadsheet that enables you to put in the room name, put in the fixture name, what color of the device is it, how many bulbs or fixtures are on that switch, how many watts it is, and what kind of a device it's going to be, to actually give you a parts list. This way, it kind of gives you some documentation as you're walking through the home, working with the client to actually make sure you get everything all on paper. But as you move through this, we figured out what we want to control. Well, now, how do you want to control them? This way, we can add the different types of controllers. Maybe it's a keypad. That's our #1 selling item. We also have timer events and interfaces that can actually, wire into different front-end systems or take contact closures. But we have worksheets on this as well. So with the keypads, you can put those in front of the client and say, okay, Mrs. Jones, what do you want this on button to do? What do you want this A button to do? And obviously, we can talk about coming back and custom engraving these to match up to whatever we're assigning to them. The third step is really, what are the results? This is actually the scenes. So when I hit this A button, what do I actually want to have happen? I want this light to turn down. I want that to go off. I want this one to be at 20%. And that's actually a scene. And we're going to associate what buttons are controlling what devices around the home. And the final thing is to certify your system, which enables you to verify that all your scenes are working right. The bigger part is the LED tracking, or having the LEDs, when I press a specific button, I have different items turn off or turn on, depending on what I've done. And the communication test, which basically gives us the knowledge of how well everything's communicating. And that's one of the things that I believe that UPV does over a lot of the other technologies out there, is you can actually have reports and documentation to show you how well everything is actually communicating. So you can actually get a sign-off from the client. Well, after, some of the things to do you want to have is, what are the rules to success of installing a system properly? Well, knowledge is one, and I do again want to thank you for all coming today to learn a bit more of how to take these steps of success. And with using UPV and Pulseworx, the main step #1 is use a phase coupler on every electrical panel that has lighting control on it. Because one of the things that happens is that a house has 2 phases, 220-volt phases that power your home. And what the phase coupler is basically a little bridge that enables the signal to cross from one phase to the other. Not that it won't do it on its own, but is it really worth the phone call from Mrs. Jones that says, maybe the light didn't turn on? So, it's kind of like, would you buy a brand new car without a spare tire? So this just gives an easier path for the signal to cross from one leg to the other. If you're working on a larger home, a 5,000 square foot home or more, we do recommend a repeater go in the main panel. And what this device does is actually picks up the signal that's coming on either one of the phases and it rebroadcasts it at full strength. I mean, I think we all understand Ohm's law, where a signal goes down copper, it gets weaker. Well, in larger homes, we do have more copper, and that's really the communication path that we're using to talk within UPV. So the repeater also gives you another benefit that allows you to do testing. When you're doing your certification, you can say, hey, Mr. Repeater, because he's at the main panel, is literally at the top of the food chain in the way of communication throughout the wiring in the home, that it can go and test and see how well it's communicating to all devices within the project. If we're working in a 3-phase environment, we do have to have a 3-phase repeater. The AC sine waves or the different phases are actually out of sync in a 3-phase system. So if we're working in commercial or condominiums or apartment complexes, we do have to have a 3-phase repeater in the job. And these devices are active devices, so they actually become part of the network in the way of the repeaters. The phase coupler is just a passive device. And the other last step to success is to have 13 Lesters or more when you're doing your communication tests. And a lot of people say, what the heck's a Lester? Well, a Lester is actually our form of measurement. And that has to do with the amount of signal strength in the way of voltage. It has to do with the amount of data or the packets that come into it, the amplitude of those things, and a variety of other things. So we just decided to call it a Lester. And everybody says, well, what's a Lester? Well, that's Lester, but Marshall Lester is our CEO, CTO. He's the one that invented the technology, so we just figured give him a little bit of homage. With that being said, let's have a little bit of an introduction to Upstart. You know, Upstart is really your tool. We can do a lot of programming manually by tapping on the devices, be it the keypad or the switch, to set a variety of different things. But Upstart really becomes a very, very powerful tool. It enables you to, it's a Windows-based program, and it enables you to set all of the different configuration of all of the different devices, of the keypads and the dimmers. It's also your test material, your communication signal, and enables you to look on the power line to see kind of what's going on. The product will run on a Mac, however, it has to be running an emulator in a PC mode. And it actually allows your computer to talk on the power line through a PIM. And we've got a variety of different types of PIMs, and we'll talk about, there's 3 of them, and we'll talk about those here in just a moment. Now, the minimum requirements does not take a super powerful machine. Any machine that can run Windows 98 can run Upstart. The nice thing is Upstart is free. It does not cost you anything. The latest version is always on our website. And speaking of our website, I would like to recommend that you visit our website. We launched this a few months ago. And under the Resources tab, create an account. And what that will do is on the back end, what we sign you in as, first by creating an account, you'll be able to watch any of the videos, watch any recordings of these webinars. You can also access our Writing Academy, which are online courses. But the other thing is that once we give you different authorizations, once I log in, dependent on what my authorization is, what will now show up under Resources. So pricing, PowerPoint presentations in both raw format in PowerPoint and as well as in PDF. So please take a moment, go to pcslighting.com, create an account, and you know, it'll all become a little bit more interactive for you. So the different types of interfaces that we have, the Pim-R is one of the most prevalent used devices that connects to other front-end type systems, be it an Elan G, be it an ELK M1, be it an HAI, be it Crestron, AMX, you know, whomever out there. That basically becomes the serial converter onto the power line. We also have a USB PIM, which will, most laptops don't come with a serial port any longer. So what we can end up doing is using the USB port to communicate. So that's really the more preferred unit for doing programming. And the new hero on the in the PIM world is going to be our Pim-Ip. It's a little bit larger than a standard PIM. It's got the RJ45 here on the bottom, and you know, we give you your MAC address, you know, kind of our thing. So all you really need to do is plug a Cat5 cable into this, plug this wire into your router, take the PIM, and you then plug it into an outlet. And once we fire up Upstart, we will pick what kind of a PIM we're going to connect to, and we'll go through a little bit of that here as we start to connect to Upstart. But that device is kind of going to give you a couple of different advantages For one, I can now walk around the home if I'm registered on the network within the client's house, and I don't have to disconnect and reconnect if I'm going from room to do programming. Secondly, if you set it up properly and you open a port on the router, you can actually access the unit and do programming remotely from, say, your office if Mrs. Jones wants some kind of a modification. And thirdly, what it will do is it's going to open up the capability for developers from the app world as well as other front-end systems. We're actually going to store the Upstart file in a text version, what we call an exported file, right on the unit. So instead of having to go out and collect all the data from all of the different pieces, these front-end systems can go out, find the PIM, say, hey, let me give me the file that's on your unit, and it will turn around and pull that information in. So, Upstart. How do we actually connect to Upstart? Let's kind of do a little bit of an overview on it. I will be bouncing between the presentation as well as Upstart itself. So when we create a new file, or Upstart is actually our software program to configure a Pulseworx or any UPV device. On the left is our design pane. So this will actually show what kind of devices we have set up in it. It's literally the frame on the left. And the frame on the right is our display pane, which, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm editing a device or working in links, that's actually kind of really our working section. And some of the terms, our configuration file is literally the file for each of the jobs that you have. Now, the nice thing is the config file can be saved on a computer or on the Pim-Ip, but at the same time, the configuration of all of the devices is saved in them themselves. So none of us have hard drives crash or we upgrade and we forget to move certain files or things like that. You know, that doesn't happen in this world. But if all of a sudden you lost a file, you could actually go on a job site and pull all of the data out of these devices, and that will then pull up into Upstart. So to me, that's a very significant advantage of using UPV as well. Some of the takeaways that I'm going to, hopefully you'll learn here today are how to create a network, how to add devices to a network, program some of the options of these devices, set up your basic scenes and links, saving your file, obviously, and how to certify a system when we're done. So again, let's kind of talk a little bit more about what you see on the screen. Across the top, we always see what the file you're working on. So this file that we were working on here was called network number 1. It'll also show we've got drop-down capability, kind of like a Windows Explorer, file view network device. We also have icons. So everybody kind of learns a little bit differently of what they like to do. Some people like using their mouse. I'm a keystroker, so I kind of want to get through things a little bit quicker. So we can always get to something in one of 3 ways. And the right click on your mouse is always a very powerful button as well. Now across the bottom, we have a couple of other little things here. We've got a little signal bar. If signals are being sent or if there is some kind of noise on the power line, that'll all be shown within the signal bar. And then are we what we call online or offline in the way of connected to our PIM? So that screenshot was offline, and we were actually modifying the file. And again, the design will show the different displays. I might have all devices. I might have an inside and outside. I might have upstairs and downstairs. I might have all wall switches or all keypads. I can create any kind of a display that I want. It will also show all of the rooms that you designed in your system, all of the links or the scenes, and if you have a TEC, a timed event controller in the system, it will also show you your schedules. And again, the right side gives us all of the devices, and also is kind of where we create our drag and drop scenes, or what we call our visual link editor. So one of the first things you have to do once you open up a file, and let me kind of jump over here to Upstart. Well, let me start a new file. So I'd say File, New. Okay, and there's 3 ways to create a file. I can create a new network file by giving it a name, giving it ID, and giving it a password. I can also create a new file or open an existing network file, one that I have created already. I can also create a new file from an existing network, meaning if this was already set up, I could put a device in setup and then pull all the information up out of them. I can also start with our Pulseworx Systems Designer, and that actually we do offline. But if I wanted to connect to my PIM, I could say Tools, Powerline Interface, Connect, and what this will do is this will pull up. Normally it comes up as offline. Remember, it's actually the last way you did it, but if you started the first time, it will be offline. Now, when I click on this drop-down, I have a choice of 4 types of PIMs. Obviously, your Upstart will not have this yet because this Upstart has not been released to the public. As soon as we're starting to ship the Pim-IP, this will be available. I can connect to an RS-232 PIM, which I have one connected to my machine here, so I could say, okay, that's the unit I want. I could say connect to it, and all of a sudden it will show me that what firmware it is, and that I'm now connected to the RS-232 PIM. If I had a USB PIM, if I'm using Simply Automated version, which is one of our licensees, that would be the SIM or the PCS USB PIM. And if I don't know what serial port I'm on with my PIM, I could say find serial interface port, and it will go out and actually give you a drop-down list of what COM that it's most likely on. But the bigger thing we'll talk about here for just a moment is the Pim-IP. So if I have a Pim-IP, I really don't know what the IP address is because these come in DHCP mode. So we've added this little Pim-IP discovery portion that will actually go out, find the IP address of the device. You know, obviously you can see the MAC address, which is on the unit as well. And I can just leave it at that IP address, or I can actually go into the device. I have to put in a username and password to access it. And this is in the instructions, but the username is PCS and the password is MyLightStyle. And the S is actually a $sign. But I can log in, and we use DigiConnect. It's a company that makes an interface, an Ethernet interface, that we've actually married with our PIM guts to talk on the power line. So really the first thing is on my network, I can say keep this IP address, and now that's going to be the static IP within my network of the Pim-IP. And I say apply. And being that I know what the IP address is now, I can come back to my Upstart. The default port is 2101, and I can put in my IP address 192.168.1.5, and then I can connect to the Pim-IP. And this will go out, and as long as it's rebooted, let's make sure I'm not. Let me disconnect from here. .5. Okay, and I will now connect. And all of a sudden, it does the same thing like I connected to the RS-232 PIM. So I'm now connected, and being that I'm hardwired into the network, I'm connected to it, but I could be on the Wi-Fi as well, and off we go. Now, if you do a port forwarding, you can open up port 2101, and when you're off-site, you'll be able to type in what your port forwarding address is, and you would then automatically be connected to to the PIM, and you can now remotely program different things. Yeah, I know. I got to reconnect again here. And that's how I now connect to a PIM, and I can see down here on the bottom that I'm online. So this is pretty straightforward. This PowerPoint is available. You know, this kind of takes you through the step-by-step of how to do different things. Now, one of the things I can also do is do a site suitability test, which will give me a view, now that I'm connected to the PIM, of what's going on the power line. So the samples here are climbing. That's actually the sine wave going by. And I have no noise, which is great, and I have no signal. Well, I'm not going to get signal unless I transmit something. So if I transmit from a keypad, I can actually see how strong my signal strength is in here. And I'll use my desktop unit as well. And we're seeing a nice 34 or 30 within our Lesters. Now, somebody had asked a little bit a while ago, how do we test for a Lester? Well, that comes after we get the devices installed and things like that, and we will show you how to do that. So this kind of can give you a very quick view of what's going on the job site within the system. Now, the next part is really has to do with creating your network. And, you know, again, we have a variety of ways to do that. You know, you can do the systems designer, which we're going to go through today. We can open an existing file, as I said. This is actually the window that pops up here that says Upstart. Once you start Upstart, for the, you know, start the program. I can also create a new network file by creating the network name and the password. I can also upload, as I said, from the devices, or I can just click, say, use it on my own, and I'm now into the software. So basically, the benefit of the Pulseworx Designer is it's really a time-saving wizard, and it enables me to do programming offline, meaning I do not need to be connected to a PIM. Well, time is money, and with the wizard, it'll kind of help you remember all of the different things that we've got to do to kind of step through things. It's got 8 steps. Put in the contact info. We can put in all of the different rooms in the house. And we'll kind of go through this quickly in Upstart Live. We'll put in the devices. We'll also then create all of the scene names. And then we can assign the buttons or the scenes to the keypads in different rooms and what their function of the button is going to be, what are one of the modes. And then I can jump into what we call as our scene or link builder to actually do all of the results of what, when I press that button, what is actually going to happen within that scene. We can also create a new network file just by clicking on Create the File, clicking on Go, and it connects to your PIM. And all of a sudden, I can go up to the top and say New Network File under the File button. And I then set up my network name, which could be the client's name, you know, webinar. It can only be 16 characters long. I can set up my network ID, which can be anything between 1 and 250. You know, you can use the last 2 digits of their house address or the last 3 digits, whatever you want, and actually enter a password on it as well. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Upstart, and we can kind of do some of this stuff live. So if I'm offline, I mean, I could do the systems designer online as well, but then I'd have to go and put every device in setup, and I really kind of want to try and save some time here. So under File, I can say Pulseworx Systems Designer. I can put in the client's name. This is Smith. You can put in her address, you know, 1234 Main Street. Put in her phone number. put in her email, put in your company name, your name, your phone, email. This will actually come in handy later on when we print out some of the reports, because then you know exactly who it's for and what it's for. I can actually name the network here, so I'll just call this SNPs. And I can pick the network ID, and I can pick, say, 127. I can put in a password. And I also have an option to erase the existing configuration of the devices as they're added. I do recommend that you check this, because what ends up happening is people somewhere along the line bring in another device, and they forget to erase the standard links that the device is shipped with. So somebody will call and say, hey, how come certain lights are automatically blinking when I'm hitting TV time? Well, the question usually is TV time link number 8? The answer usually is yes. I'm like, well, you forgot to erase the existing configuration that was in the devices. We can also set the default fade rate of any of the dimmers that we add, and I can go up to 30 seconds. I'll make the default fade rate now 3.3 seconds as I add devices. So the next, for this little class, we've got 3 rooms here that we're showing, the living room, outside, the kitchen. I'll add the master bedroom. So, and this, obviously, these would be the rooms that devices are going to be in. And I can put as many rooms in here as I want. And we'll put the garage in. Okay, so those are going to be the 5 rooms that we're going to have devices in. Now it says in the living room, what device am I going to add? Well, this keypad is in the living room, so it's the keypad. And what product is it? And the product type, this will show, I have drop downs here of the most popular devices in the Pulseworx line. So I can go down to keypad here. I know it's a KPLD, so I can add that as a KPLD. The other nice thing is I can actually use my K button to get to keypads. I can use my L button or my W button to get to the wall switches or whatever I want. So again, this is a KPLD6. I can use my tab. I'm also going to add the lamp module, and I'll call that the pink lamp. And I'll come here and I'll just hit my L, and that goes to my lamp module. Outside, I have the landscape. I know it's a wall switch. I hit the W once. I go to my wall switch dimmer. I hit it again. It'll go to the LED type dimmer, so I can bounce between those. I go to next. In my kitchen, I have I've got the counter. It's a wall switch. And in the master bedroom, I have the new keypad, and I'll call it Scott's. And it's a KPC7. And the advantage to this is that we've got 5 big buttons here, rectangles, and then the up and the down. Now the advantage to this device is that the up and the down can literally be 2 separate buttons now with LED tracking. That's the key, because I can now track. This could be an all off or an all on. It could be an up or a down, but it's actually 7 buttons of what I want to program within this device. And in the garage, I'm going to call it the garage light. And that's going to be just a standard wall switch as well. Now, once I've added all the devices, I've actually got to create the link names. So I'm going to have a home scene. I'm going to have an away scene. I'm going to have my floodlights. I'm going to have my counter light. I'm going to have a done scene. I'm going to have a morning scene. And here you want to remember to, if you want to control any of the devices by themselves, you got to put them in here as well. I So there's three kinds of scenes that you can have. You can have global scenes, which is basically all on and all off. We have area scenes, which could be, like TV time, morning, done, home and away. And I can have zone scenes, which I'm representing here by pink lamp, the living room cans, the front lights, and the counter. So we can list out all of the different scenes that we can have, and we can have up to 250 scenes within your system. The next step is actually assigning what those buttons are going to do in the living room here, and what's the mode going to be of that button itself. So what I'm going to do here in the living room is I'm going to make this on button my home scene. The mode can be one of 16 modes. We have the most popular modes are right here at the top. We have activate, we have deactivate, which is basically a positive command or turn them on, but I can actually have, when I activate a scene, I can have devices go to 0. I could deactivate a command, a scene, which will save me creating the amount of types of scenes that I have. But deactivate, all the devices will definitely go to 0. I can have a toggle button, which I tap it once, it'll activate it. I'll tap it again, it'll deactivate it. Or I can actually have a super toggler, which when I tap it, it'll activate, and if I press and hold it, it'll brighten it. And if I tap it again, it'll deactivate, and or I can press and hold it, and it will dim. We do have a variety of different features here for you to choose. So I'm just going to have this scene activate. The A button I'm going to have is my living room cans, and I might want that to be a toggle instead of an activate. The B button I'm going to have be my front lights. And again, I can use my keyboard to make it simpler to program. So the front lights, I might have that be a toggle button as well. And I'm going to have this one be the counter. And being that I kind of know the names that I'm going to put in here, I can just hit the different, buttons on my keyboard to get to that location. Make this a toggle as well. The D button here is going to be done. That's going to be activate. Now this button text column here to the right is actually to help us if we're going to do custom engraving on the devices. I'm not going to fill that in now. We'll show it to you when we're working with the keypads in a moment here. The off button I'm going to say is going to be my away. I'm going to activate that scene. The up button I'm going to be use my last link, and I'm going to make that a bright button. I'm going to use the down. I'm going to say use last link, and I'm going to make that a dim button. So if I chose, I could actually create my custom engraved membranes here by capturing the information, and I can choose what font I want to use, what size, uppercase or only, or upper and lowercase. But again, we'll talk about some of this here in a moment. I also have a keypad in Scott's bedroom. Now this is a 7-button keypad, so this is a little bit different. So we've got the on and off button and scene 1, 2, and 3, which is the way that the device is going to ship. So the top button is on, the bottom button is off, if you will, scene 1, 2, 3, and then up and down. And again, these buttons will be able to be custom engraved. They'll be less than $10 for a button. So in here, just for grins, on I'm going to have as all on, activate. Off I'm going to have as all off. Button 1 is going to be morning, and button 2 I'm going to have as make it the garage light. Button number 3 I'll make as done. The up button I can again do my bright and my dim, but I could also make this. Let's actually kind of go back here, and I'll make this the home, and the off is the away, just like we have downstairs. And I'll make the up the all on, and I'll make the down the all off. And once we've gotten through that portion, what it does is it populates all of the devices. It will also, this is asking me, do I want to save the file or go and create the worksheets on the custom engraved membrane? So right now I'm going to say no, I'm not going to do that. But it also brings in all of the different rooms that we created and all of the links. And it's only set up to show what the buttons are assigned to. It doesn't give me the results yet. So the link builder will enable me to now go and create my links, or what are my results, or look at them as to what is actually going on. Now, one of the things that the designer helps you do is make sure that you minimally get the indication of the LEDs right out of the chute. So because I added in this home scene, I added the living room keypad, the on button. The living room keypad on button has been added on the LED tracking, as well as the master bedroom, the on button is going to come on. Because what would happen is a lot of people would add the scene name to the button and give it a function, but and let's say it was in a toggle mode, they would forget to add the LED, and when they pushed on the button, hey, something happened, but they could turn it on, but they could never turn it off. So I tried to, help cut down on some of the simple mistakes that can happen here. But what I can do on home is I can modify this. I can say edit the link up here in the right-hand corner, or I can hit home here twice, and it now opens up an editor. So my home scene, it's link ID number 1. The controllers, I have the living room keypad is the on button. I've got Scott's keypad is the on button. The presets, I can come in here now and I can add a preset, and I can say, all right, the lighting load that's in the keypad, which is the cans, I can do the pink lamp. I'm going to do the garage light and the kitchen lights, and I'm holding down my control button when I do this, and I can add all of those to the home scene. And I can come in here now and say, what lighting level do I want that scene, the living room keypad, the cans to come to 90% in 3.3 seconds. The pink lamp, I want to come on to 70% in 3.3 seconds. The kitchen counter lights, I want to have come to 90%. And the garage light, I'm going to have come to 100%, right away. And this is what the indicators will do when that home scene happens. So in the living room keypad, the on button will come on. The off button will do the opposite, and in this case, it's going to end up turning off. A, B, C, and D are going to turn off as well. In my bedroom, on my keypad upstairs, the on button is going to go on, and the other buttons, nothing's going to change. I actually like setting the LEDs within the keypad itself just for simplicity reasons, and I'll kind of explain that here in a moment. The LEDs is really probably the hardest part of all of this programming. It's a little tricky to start, but once you get it down, you can kind of jump through it pretty quick. So the nice thing is now that I look at home, I can see here's my transmit. These are the devices that are going to trigger the event. Here are the devices that are going to be receiving the command and what level they're going to go to and in what level. If it's blank afterwards, that is our default scene, the default level that it's at. And then what's the result in the way of the LEDs tracking. So, I can come in here and do away, and I can now add my presets, and I can actually add every device. And the away, I can have the pink lamp go to 0 in, say, 30 minutes. Whoops, 30 minutes, not 30 seconds. The outside landscape lighting I'm going to have go to 0 as well, but I might do that in an hour. Counter lights, I'm going to have to go to 0 in, let's just do that 3.3 seconds. And the garage light, I want to go to 0 in 5 minutes. So setting a scene, I can do a variety of different things. So away, everybody's going to end up turning off, but at different fade rates. And again, here my indicator, it's my off button. So we'll set up the rest of these scenes in a variety of different ways on some other devices. But the link builder actually enables you to jump through and add or delete devices very easily and see kind of what here's my action and here's my reactions, and look at each device, straightforward. Now you're noticing that there's red lines here. I've also noticed that in my design that I've actually started to see the different links that I've actually completed with the different things that we were just seeing in the link builder. Let's say I want to actually program a device or add the device to the system. Because I've done all my programming, but I haven't really logged anything in or sent any information down to a device. I'll start with the outside landscape lights, which is this device here. It's our wall switch. I can double-click on this to edit it. I can highlight it, and I can come up here to the top and say Device Edit. It'll pull up the same window. And what we'll do is we will start to see a variety of tabs for that device. So the ID will show us the name, the room name, the device name. It's the unit ID that Upstart quickly added to it, the firmware version of that unit. I can also now set the characteristics of the rocker switch. So when I single tap that switch, what lighting level do I want it to go to? Well, do I really need it to go to 100%? No, I can have it go to 90%. I'll save 10% of the energy, and I'll save the life of the bulb as well. I can leave it at the default fade rate, or I can say, have this go up in 1.6 seconds. Upon a double tap, I can go to 100% instantaneously. I can do the same with the bottom. So I can single tap the bottom and maybe it goes to 20% at my default rate. And if I double tap it, it goes to 0. Now, those of you that are using front-end controllers, you're going to want to check this report light level after the rocker switch is pressed. Like an Elan or an M1, if I manually turn this switch on or off, I'm going to want it to go broadcast out on the power line what level it's at, so it can be displayed on people's touch screens or their apps. Another little feature we have is enable top rocker max out. If I check that, it'll never get above the 90% if I single tap it a second time. So once I program this, what's going to happen is when I tap it, it'll go to 90%. If I tap it again, it'll only stay at 90%. The only way it'll get to 100 is if I double tap it. So the other options is I can make this device a switch by turning off the dimming. I can set my default fade rate. I can also set my LED. I've got a variety of choices on that. In my home, basically the LED is red when the load is on, and the LED is blue when the load is off. So I can glance across the room quickly and kind of see if an outside light or something is on or off. We also have timers built into the switches, so I can actually have that switch turn off in X amount of time. I do this on my garage light. I do this on my wife's closet light, because if she's in there for more than 5 minutes, you know what? You don't need to be in the closet more than 5 minutes, so hey, let's turn that the landscape lights off, say maybe after 120 minutes. But if I check this box, enable top rocker double tap, if I double tap the switch, the timer is no longer in effect. So now it'll stay on the whole time. So that's some things we can do with the options. The next tab on the switch is really the scenes, what we call the receive components. So it's in the away scene. It's going to go to 100%. I also want to add this device to my home scene. I want that to come on to, say, 90%. and I can set a fade rate to this as well, or leave it at my default. I also might want to have this the landscape come in the front lights. I want them to come on to 100%. We do have this last level, which you're seeing right here under this home. I don't recommend that because if you do that in the beginning, people are like, okay, that's great, that's fine. But later they might come back. So they say, hey, it was coming on at 100% last time. Now it's coming on at 10. What's going on? Well, in turn, that's why I personally don't recommend it. It's your choice. We did give you the functionality here. I might also have this be, being that this is the landscape lights, I might have this be in my morning scene, have it come on to maybe 80%, because my morning scene, I get up at 5 a.m. It's never light at 5 a.m., so, you know, I got to take the dogs for a walk. I want the landscape lighting on. You know, I could also have, if I wanted to add a new link, you know, we'll call that party. It's going to be around link 12. I want that to come on to 100%. So I can actually add a link to a device directly. So we'll just kind of leave that alone for this device. The transmit components is literally the switch can now talk to different devices. A lot of people say, hey, why don't you have a 2-button transmitter? Well, we do. It's called a switch. The nice feature on this is that we can create a virtual 3-way. And I do this all the time. My garage has got a variety of different switches in it, and lamp modules and appliance modules. So when I come into the garage, I'm turning on the hall light to get to the garage. So when I turn on this light, I can turn on, in this situation, I'll say, when I turn the outside lights, I want to turn the pink lamp on. I'll make it an activator. So anytime I turn on my landscape lights, I'm going to turn on the pink lamp in this situation. Well, that could be cool if I'm doing, you know, the outside lights to the garage light. That makes some sense. But the pink lamp, nah, not so much. Well, I can do something that's very custom, which upon a single tap, I could say send no command. But upon a double tap, I can activate it. And I can do the same on my link deactivator, send no command, and upon a double tap, I'll deactivate it. And again, I can also, with the auto-off timers, if the device times out after that 5 minutes, I can have it go send out a command or a flag. So for the front end units like Elan, I could actually say because the landscape lights timed out, they internally turned off, I might want to have this go transmit a command that says front lights go off or deactivate, which then on a just touch screen of sorts, it would show a 0. So a bunch of different things you can do with that, and that's kind of more in the advanced programming side of things. The advanced tab allows me to set my receive sensitivity, high or low if I have noise on the power line in this job. Our Generation 2 stuff is really good about dancing around the noise and not affecting us. But in certain situations, we still might need to kind of tune that stuff out. I can also bump up the transmission packets that go out. Every device talks in 2 packets of data, so I'm redundant. But if I have multiple repeaters in a job, I might need to bump that up to 3. I can also test the unit once I've logged into it, and I can do a communication test. But because I haven't programmed this device yet, I can't do that. So I'm going to say program. Well, I got to be connected to my interface. So let's connect to our PIM. And I will now come back to my landscape light, and I can right-click on it, and I have now a variety of functions as well. I can edit it, but I'm going to program it. And it's saying, hey, you're trying to modify this, yes. And the software, well, it normally would come up. I had programmed this one a little bit earlier. It was probably the same address. Nope. I got to factory default these things. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now I factory defaulted. So let me quit this. Outside landscape light. Let's program it. That's what's going on. Let me save this 1 second here. Snips. And my properties. It was a bad thing to choose when I'm at my own home, and I picked my network ID here in the house because I'm getting conflicts. Okay, so now if I go to program this device, it should come back and tell me that it's never been programmed. So go put it in setup. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will now write down to the device. Now what this will do is this will save you some time. This is actually the last time I'd actually have to touch that switch physically, because it takes about a minute to write down to a device, and this is kind of why I'm saying that you know, if you use the software offline, you can add all the devices in the job. You can use the link builder to kind of lay it out instead of being on a job site. Okay, let's add the outside light, put it in setup. It's going to take me a minute just to give it a name and a unit ID. As to where here, I've pretty much programmed this device to everything that I want, and it gets loaded into it once. So I've got a question here. Looks like somebody is an Elan G dealer. So how does all of the programming in Upstart get into the Elan G? So what ends up happening is you're going to actually use Upstart to program all your devices. Once you do that, the Elan G today goes out and pulls all the data out of the units and pulls it up into the software, into the Elan software. The Pim-Ip on the next release of the configurator, the file will be saved here, and G will go out, grab that file, and suck it up in about 30 seconds. So that's kind of the way that that's going to happen. So now that we've programmed this outside light, I now have a blue line under it. So it's actually going to do what I say it's going to do. Come on to 90%. If I double tap, it'll go to 100. If I single tap, it goes down to 0. And I'm not sure if this is the one. Well, it went down to 20%, and then I double tap it, it goes off. If I end up programming the pink lamp, when I double tap this, this will transmit and turn that pink lamp on. So what I'll do is I'll say program it, and it's going to tell me that it hasn't been, no, it's the same ID as what I had from the earlier class. So it's going to go program all this stuff down, and I can then go and show you here how to how that virtual three-way will work. Yeah, because it's the same ID, it's not going to allow me to write the network because it's a different name. I used the Jones this morning. So this is, again, if you don't factory default devices, and yeah, I'm totally messing myself up here, so I'm going to stop this. Another way we can do different things is, let's say I come in here let's say the lamp module died, okay? I could put in a new lamp module, which this is basically factory defaulted now. I could come into here and I could say install replace. And I need to put the device in setup, which it is because the LED here is blinking. And it will take everything that I have in my software and then go and download into that lamp module. So it's now found the device in setup. It knows it's a lamp module, and now it's going to take everything that I've got set up here in my program within it for it to turn on. But I don't know if I added it. I'm confusing myself because I'm going off script as usual to turn it on. But again, you know, some of the feature sets that we have that can kind of save you some time later on. You don't have to go redo everything on out there. All right, one of the questions that come while this is programming is, are there any known bad things that you can plug into an outlet that can mess up UPB? There's two things that really we've seen that can still affect us. We do sell some filters and inline chokes. We do sell less than 100 of those a year. So it's not a real big thing, but the number one offending device that we have seen in the field are variable speed tool pumps. This is a new type of a technology in the last couple of years where the pump will run at full speed to get all of the water moving. It's kind of like riding a bike. Getting going, it's a little bit harder. Once you're moving, you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to use as much energy. So what ends up happening is that the pumps slow down, and they start putting a lot of harmonics on the power line. So in that situation, we can actually use an inline filter or an inline choke to isolate that noise out. The other thing are really inexpensive electronic fluorescent ballasts that they stick a lot of noise on the line. One or two of them isn't a real problem, but when you start putting 3, 4, or 5 of them together on the same switch, it can actually, it's so much noise that the processor is kind of like a whole bunch of kindergartners screaming at you. After a while, you just can't think of what's going on. So I did tap this, but I did not add the pink lamp to my receive components on the lamp module. So I'll come in here, I've got home and away, and I'm going to add the pink lamp. I'm going to add my done scene. This is going to go to, say, 82%. That's going to go to 0. And I'll reprogram the device so a virtual three-way will work on the unit. So as you can see, you know, this kind of takes a little bit of time each and every time we write down to it. So when I double tap that, turn the light on, the pink lamp would have gone on. I double tap it, my light snaps off, and the pink lamp turns off. But I can, you know, turn on my outside lights without affecting the pink lamp. That'll only happen with that custom function that I set up that now tells that device to go on. So it's kind of a little trick here. Now, the other thing that I can do when I've actually programmed the device or logged it into the network is I can do a communication test to it. And well, that'll now do the test from the PIM to the device. So when I do a COM test, this is actually how I'm measuring a Lester. So at the device, I have 98 Lesters, and at the power line interface, I have 91 Lesters. And right here, I can notice that I am on the same phase. I would hope so because I'm in the same demo, the demo device. So that's a real quick way to see how well we're communicating from devices. So we've kind of programmed a wall switch. We've programmed a lamp module. Let's kind of talk about the new keypad. So again, we have the ID, we have options, we have the transmit, we have the indicators, advanced button test, and communications test. So the options are, do I have the backlights on the keypad here when it's in an off state? You know, do I have the backlights lit, which on this, I don't know if you can see that quite well, but under the scene 3, see how we've got there's kind of a little bit of a glow? That's what we would have the LED at. It's enabled, high, medium, low, or faint. Now, the keypad transmit, I've already set this up to be home, away, morning, garage light. Well, I'm going to change this to the pink lamp. Done, all on and all off. Okay, so that's the, oops, sorry. That's what more triggers are going to be. Now the indicators, this is really where we can use some logic of what we want those LEDs to do. So when I come home, I definitely want the on button to turn on. The off button, which is away, you probably want to say, I want that to go off. Well, being that this on and the off, either be it on this keypad or this desktop keypad, they're directly responsive to each other because one is literally the opposite. I want it to have to do the opposite command. And what we mean by that is I've got a little LED help here. We have 2 types of commands, if you will. We've got kind of positive commands, which is activate, go to, bright, and we have deactivate commands, or off commands, which are deactivate and go off. So if I had set this off button to go to off, when I activate home, the LED would turn off. Well, that's great. Well, if I deactivated home, the away mode would be the LED would still stay off, as to where I might want to have, and in this situation, if I'm not home, I'm away, I want that LED to come on, you know, to visualize what's going on there. NC is for no change. So because I'm home, the morning scene is really no longer valid, so I'm going to want that LED to go off. The garage light, actually we changed that to be the pink lamp. So, you know, the way this is set up is on, off, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, which would be on, off, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. I could actually clear my links here, and whatever was on my transmit tab, one of my indicators, I could say copy links, and that's now going to jump in. So the stair step, as I call it, that means that that's the button that corresponds to that scene. When I'm looking at this, when I'm home, the pink lamp LED, I literally want to have come on because the pink lamp does come on when I hit the home scene. The done scene is not going to be happen because I'm home. All on is not true, and the all off is not true. The away, again, I can do the same thing here, opposite. The pink lamp is actually going to go off, or morning is going to go off. The pink lamp is going to go off. The done is going to go off. All on is off. And being that my away has everything turn off as well, I could actually have this button come on. So this is kind of how we can track things. So the morning scene, if I trigger the morning scene, home is not valid, away is not valid. The pink lamp, I'm pretty sure I had that come on in the morning scene. And done is no longer valid, and these 2 are not valid. So the easiest way to kind of think about this is think about the LED behind the button as a light bulb. If I receive this command here, what do I want the LED on that, you know, up here at the top? If I see pink lamp on, do I want this on or the home scene? What do I want it to do? Well, I really don't care because home is not going to be affected by the pink lamp. The away scene is not going to be affected. Morning isn't going to be affected, and done is actually it is going to be affected. So I definitely want the done scene to go off. The up button, which is all on, is going to be off because the pink lamp is now on, and the all off is now off because, you know, all on is not true, and all off is not true. So in here, all on, home is not true, away is not true, morning is not true, pink lamp on all on is on, and the done is not true. And because these two buttons are correlated, all on or all off, I'm going to do on and off on so hopefully I haven't totally lost you all on that, but once we program this, this will kind of actually make some sense. All right. So if I'm going to program this device, I have to put it in setup. Now on the 7-button keypad, it's the top button and the lower left-hand button to put it in setup. And I'll now program that device. And being that we've got 15 minutes, I'm going to kind of wrap up here in a sec by showing us how to do communication tests, how to certify a system, because if we've actually gotten all of our scenes correct, everything will track, and off we go. I've had a lot of responses, and I thank all of you for filling out the questionnaire in the beginning when you registered for this, because I did learn a bit about, a lot of people want to hear a little bit more about advanced programming. How to do some trick things, single tap, double tap. And I will be creating a course that will probably run the week of Thanksgiving, because a lot of people don't want folks in their house that week, on some advanced programming to show some other things. So what we've got here, I know we did not program this KPLD or the kitchen. So right now, those two devices, if I hit my all off button, is actually not going to respond. Actually, that was the up button. All on. There we go. And I should go all off. And I don't think I put those scenes in my switches. So this is kind of where we want to check that things are part of those scenes. So for me, I'm going to come back to my links here real quick. I'm going to go to my scene builder, and I'm going to look at all on, which nobody's in, and all off, nobody's in. So I can quickly add my presets here. All on, add all my devices. Okay, I'm going to go to 100%. I'll be done here, all off. And I'm going to go to my presets. I'm going to add all of those. And have them all go to 0. And this device here, I got to go to 0 as well. So now I can see what buttons are triggering things and what their thing's going to be. So for grins and giggles, let's just go program the kitchen counter. I'll say program it, and it should tell me that it hasn't been programmed. And I'll get that programmed. One of the things, one of the questions is, somebody came up with why this program is for testing. Can you test the entire system, seeing a listograph of the lessers to each device? Yes, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get to, but I want to get all of these devices logged in here to be able to kind of show that quite easily. And again, Upstart is run on a PC-based device. You can run an emulator on a Mac, but it does have to be an emulator. So one of the things that as we're going along, as things are getting programmed, I can do a comm test to it from the pin to the device. I can also do device-to-device tests. So I can come up to here under Tools, and I can do a device-to-device test. So I could say, let's go to this keypad, which is Scott's bedroom keypad, and I can go to the outside landscape lights, and I can run a comm test. So, Mr. Keypad, how well are you talking to that switch? Well, I can talk to it at 88%, and I'm getting 88 Lesters, and coming back, I get 95 Lesters. So that is a smoking signal. I could say, okay, Mr. Keypad, how well are you talking to the garage light? Well, let's run the comm test, and I am going to get a fail because I never actually added that switch into the system, so it's going to show that it failed, and this is going to fail as well because I'm never going to get a response back from it. So, you know, this can actually give me the capability of testing device to device. If I wanted to do, say, a global test under my tools, I could do a network comm test, which would actually be from the PIM to the whole network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this comm test from the office, and what do I want to call it? So I'm going to call it 10:24 p.m. And what this is going to do is go out and try and talk to every single device in my unit. The first keypad, this keypad, we actually never logged, so it says, hey, here's the signal at the PIM and the signal at the device. But I did do the pink lamp, so I have 90 Lesters at the PIM. I got 115 at the device, and it's going through each and every device in the system and gives me an actual list. And it's got a lot of other stuff here that is really for engineers if we end up getting into some kind of an issue. And that's actually saved as that report of 10:24 p.m. Now, we're noticing that we've got some red lines underneath these devices. What this is saying is that these have not been programmed to some of the modifications that I've done to it. So instead of going to each device and saying program, I can come up here to network, and I can say program all modified. And because I've only logged number 2 and number 3 into the database by, you know, putting it in setup, those are the only 2 it's going to program. So it's going to program the pink lamp, and then it's going to go program my outside landscape light. The number 1 keypad I actually never dropped in or logged it in, you know, into the Upstart database. I would actually have to program it individually by going and putting it in setup and coming back and downloading to it. Now, the nice thing is that, you know, if we've done everything right in our programming to start, all we would need to do is go and program everything once. But again, here, we're able to, you know, kind of mix and match. Where do I want to program something? What do I want to test? I want to change something. So at this point, when I hit on, I'm doing my home scene. And scene 2, this button we had actually programmed, I think it's the pink lamp. I could hit my away scene. And I didn't go back and put everybody in the away scene, but I did put people in the all off, except for this keypad load, and I can do an all on as well here. So, you know, I've got some LED tracking going on at this point, but being that this isn't in my scene, on my setup, that's not going to work. So one other thing that we've got here in the way of the testing is if I have a repeater in the system, and what I'll do is I'm going to grab my file real quick, open a network file, my documents, Upstart, customer files, Kwiatkowski, 10/6/10/18, that was just the other day. So these are all my devices. I'm looking at this in a list view instead of in icon view. And as the file loads up, the nice thing I like about list view is I can start to sort this by unit ID, by devices in their phase, what rooms they're in, what kind of device the names are alphabetically, or what kind of products they are. So, we can kind of look at this real easy, if I need to do some modifications or something to a device. But under my tools, I could do a repeater comm test, and those rules we talked about here are right here in the beginning of this. But I have a repeater out in the garage. Upstart's going to go talk to that repeater, make sure I can talk to the repeater, and then I can actually have the repeater do a test to every device in my house. Or I could say select none and, sort things that are in the garage, and I can pick all the devices in the garage and do a test to that. Or I could say select all. And how many times do I want to do it? And I want to save this file.